Alright, so more of the same actually on the high-def NES kits. Been soldering all week. It would have got done a lot sooner. I just haven't been able to come in here and sit down for extended periods of times until yesterday. And I think I put in like 6 hours in one stretch with very minimal breaks in that 6 hours. And I was able to do all of the headers to CPUs. This is PPU sitting here. But there's 300 of each, so I did almost 300 boards socketing the headers on, and it took 6 hours. Whew. Lots and lots of work, but here's some updates on the soldering techniques and whatnot. Okay, so I'm down to my last few here. See that? And this is the last process of soldering. These have the sockets on them, but not the headers. And I've already done all the PPUs, so this is the very last of it. I've changed up my setup a little bit. I was soldering using this. I put the headers onto this and have this clamped in there and then do that, but get them in the right hole here. There's just a lot of play back and forth, and I finally realized that the holes on this old interposer weren't as tight as they could be, so that's why I cut this piece of perf board out and started using this. There's a lot less play, especially if I have any downforce on it, which helps with initiating the soldering. So I'll solder the bottom two and then go back up. Lots of updates with the tip. This is the tip that I was talking about when I was filing it down and stuff. And might not be able to tell too well, but a little chunk of it did in fact break off. Maybe not break off, but it's ate away right here. And that's about where I feed solder in, so maybe the flux consumed it. But it didn't seem to matter. No matter what I did, it kept restoring the backside, and I kept getting big solder blobs, which caused bridges and that little line of solder that I was showing before. So I gave up on this tip. I tried everything. I tried filing it down, burning on some hot glue, just trying to get anything to keep that so solder would not blob onto the backside. I just couldn't make it happen, so I thought, well, if it'll restore on that one, then maybe it'll restore on the old tip that I used for melting hot glue. You can see the backside's still a little rough, and it's actually starting to restore itself some here too. But this was the tip that I used, I don't know, last few years just for melting hot glue. I was using it for soldering, and then in the NES-RGB days I would just dab it on top of like a hot glue tower or something for structural support on the NES-RGB, and I finally got to the point where it wouldn't wipe off anymore. It just wasn't soldering right, so I just said screw it, I'll use this one just for melting hot glue and then go to a different tip for soldering. So I pulled this one back out thinking, well, if it keeps restoring on the back side of the other tip, then I'll try filing off the front side of this one. And sure enough, I've been using this almost ever since that last video was made for hundreds of sockets and headers. And it's worked out a lot better because the solder was not blobbing up on the back side, but I can see it's starting to restore a little bit right there on the very tip, which hasn't been causing too many problems, but I've gotten through most of them with this, so it's been a lot better. So one of the other things was I brought my bowl up here for the excess solder because it's still a thing. I do have to blob it off or whatever to get all the excess off. Not as bad with this tip, honestly. And since it's such a huge mass, if I wipe it, it doesn't become molten solder, which is kind of good. It kind of makes it easy. And if you're wondering, I do actually, on my stand, I do actually have a wet sponge. So I do come over here and wipe off the one side fairly often, actually. it seems to help a lot if it's a clean face on here. Trying to get rid of that black stuff, which is just burnt flux. So instead of trying to make a blob of solder down here and dipping on that, I just right to there, you know, especially if I'm coming down with my solder and tip and a big blob forms, it'll just roll right off into there. That happens quite a bit too. So just one of those things you don't think about, and finally you do it and you're like, God, I wish I would have done that from the beginning. Yeah, speaking of tips, JBC does make a drag soldering tip for through hole. It's kind of a fork tongue thing. If I remember right, it had a solder reservoir up in the back somewhere, and I really thought about getting one, and I kind of wish I would have, just because I had so many of these to do. It probably would have helped. But even if it was just for putting on the sockets and doing that, you know, and having less bridges and whatnot, that would have helped a lot to get through those. But I wasn't sure that it would fit on here and not hit the headers and melt them because of the proximity. I'm almost positive it would hit the plastic of the sockets and melt them, which whatever. But they also make a solder feed gun, so it actually has your roll of solder up here on a gun, and it feeds the solder to the tip. And I thought that'd be awesome for especially for like this process where I'm just constantly using solder, you know. But I don't remember why I didn't get it. Probably just an expense thing at the time. Didn't think I was going to use it a lot, and it was pretty expensive. But that would have been ideal for this anyway, for as many as I did. But yeah, with the hot glue tip, I was also changing my soldering technique a little bit again, where I soldered these two down here just to get it structurally more support, and then I would start up here and feed some solder into the back side of the tip to get a blob started up here, and then I would start down, but I would actually change from feeding solder from the back side bottom like that to over the top and as near to the pins as I could, trying to get the flux onto the pins instead of just being burnt off by the tip. And that seemed to help out quite a bit too. Okay, so soldering is done. So this is going to be the second round of testing for the interposers. This is just for the pre-assembled PPU interposers. And the reason it's only for the PPU is because our test jig, as you can see, has staggered pins. The shorter ones are pointing and the taller ones are cupped to accommodate sockets and headers. And unfortunately, we swapped the sockets and headers on the CPU interposer so it fit the top loader Navy Famicom better. And that means that we can't use this tester for both. Something about the power and ground pins apparently aren't programmable or swappable or whatever, so we couldn't just turn it around. So I first started working with this and was having nothing but problems. And one of the things I had to do was I found a cheap old power brick that I didn't need for anything and cut the cords off so I could push down on the interposers. This one's showing bad. And what I found with all the problems with it just constantly showing bad was the cups, the pogo pins with the cupped head aren't making contact. So what I've been doing is running the file across the top of the pins like this. Believe me, I know this is not ideal. Definitely would be best to clean them, because it's solder flux is what's causing the problem. But I just don't have time. I might have a solder bridge right there, but this is why I wanted to test, just to double check that my soldering work was good, and I don't really trust my vision to see every little mistake. Yeah, see now it tests good. I don't trust myself to see every mistake after just sitting here for hours and hours on end. Just this repetitive work. Trying to see stuff that isn't there, you know. But this is actually going fairly fast now that I have figured out that I need to file the top of the pins off. Still going to take me all day, I'm sure. But at least they're getting a second round of testing. And this is the more important one to test because it has a lot of analog stuff on it for the video output, etc. And what I'm finding is it's really not that necessary. I haven't found any interposers yet that failed the test. So I'm guessing as long as I didn't just blatantly miss a big solder bridge that they'll be okay to ship. Okay, so finally, soldering and testing, at least second round testing of PPU posers, done. So now I need to ESD bag seal all 1,500 boards. Another giant step I'm not looking forward to. This is one of the blue kits from the last batch, and you can tell there's a lot more bag there than it needs to be, and that's because me and Kevin were kind of under the gun one weekday evening, I believe it was, at his workplace. So we were just barreling through these as fast as we could get through them. And it turned out okay, but I really didn't want to have to go back up to his workplace to do it. So I bought my own impulse sealer. This is a U-line impulse sealer. It's a H963. So it's the 16-inch version. I think the one in the video is actually 12-inch if I got the model numbers right. I got this on eBay. There was only 2 U-lines. There's a bunch of no-name or knockoffs, but the U-line is the only one, if you look at the specs real close, that does a higher thickness. This will seal 2 6mm bags together. You know, and the other stuff, the total thickness could only be like 8mm. So I wanted to go with this one because I knew it worked for what we were doing since I'd already used one. And let's see, this was only one of 2, so there was this one and there was an 8-inch one. And I thought, you know, 8-inch probably not enough because some of the bags that I have are really big, so they've got to get cut down. This one did not have the actual blade and holder up here or the knob. What else? There were some complaints about some of the other ones not even being able to seal what it was actually advertised to do. You know, like if you turned up the timing too high, it would melt it or burn it or something, or the heater would give out. I think that's what it was. The heating element would burn out after just a few uses. I can't remember. It must have been Amazon reviews that I was reading about some of the other brands that I didn't know. But you could buy, let's see, a brand new 12-inch. I think it was $180 or something like that, and the 16-inch was $212 from Uline. And some people on eBay had this one listed for like, I don't know what it was, 110 or something, or best offer. And I offered $50 and they accepted it. So it was $50 plus $20 shipping, so $70 in this. And then I had to order the knob, which is missing, and the cutting bracket, which holds the blade. This comes with a blade. And then I bought a packet of blades. And I bought a service kit, which comes with 2 heaters and the tape and such, which I'm glad I got because the tape on this one's a little rough. I'm not sure how long that's going to last. But this stuff was like maybe $50, I think. So I'm in this for $120, and I'm sure I'm going to get my money back out of this, just not having to travel up to Indy. You know, and 1,500 boards would probably take us an entire Saturday or Sunday, and screw that. So I'm going to do this at home, but first I'm going to have to put this thing together, and then I'm going to get on it and get this thing going. So you want to see what happens with ESD bag sealing? These bags are from Kevin's work, just excess bags. I'll take one I've already sealed and try to cut them so they're useful for me. This bag is closed, or this end is closed, and this end is open. Try keep it straight. And I take the closed end, put a couple seals on it. Since these will not handle pre-assembled interposers straight up and down. And then sideways. That's why I do the two cuts, is it's you can get them closer together and cut them with scissors. Sometimes it's not possible. And then especially with the pre-assembled interposers inside there. And then try to mark for vertical seals here. It's not always like this. Just happen to have a big stack of the exact same size of these bags in the box that he gave me. Hardest part here is to try to keep it square. Because if I don't, the top can get narrowed and I can't get a pre-assembled interposer in there very well. Great thing about this sealer is put it down, it's on a timer, makes it click. And auto shuts off. Seems like the pre-assembled interposers are taking a little more time to try to get into the bag because the header and socket just fights you. Fights me, I should say. See, here's one where the seal's way angled over to the side. Oh, still went in. This would be nice to have two people spread this out and try to make it flat, but because of that, this is why I turned up the timer a little bit. Doesn't quite get a perfect seal on there, but as good as it's going to get. But trying to get back in here and double seal that and cut it, run the risk of bending pins, and I just don't want to do that, so I have to use the scissors. Now, do that 600 of those, and then 400 non-assembled, and then 500 main boards. It's going to be a while. Well, interposers are done, so on the main boards, and not much difference here. Get a template going. I don't know where these bags originally came from. Probably Mauser DigiKey, something like that. Looks like they are. No, the other one said how big they were. Like 10 by something. You usually get about 3 wide in these if I'm careful about it. Did a little maintenance to the sealer. had a screw completely fall out up here that holds in the top. I don't even know what the material is that holds or that pushes down on the top. Some kind of silicone, or I don't know, but there's a screw that holds all that in. That came out, and then went ahead and cleaned it. It was getting dirty. That really helped. But other than like adjusting the temperature, or not the temperature, adjusting how long. That last one was really tight because my lines are not straight. But just how long it is, because I was actually leaving it on there so long it was melting it instead of just giving it the slight pattern from the fiberglass tape. And I know the Caesar's got a cutter on it, but if I use the cutter, I can't get as many on it. So it's actually going really well, a lot faster than I expected, honestly. Got through the interposers really quick. The unassembled ones were even faster, of course. Trying to get interposers with sockets and headers down in the, when you open it up like that, try to get them down in there just a little harder. A lot easier when they're skinnier. Yeah, just plugging away hour after hour after hour. The only thing that sucks about this is I can't pay attention to a TV show enough to watch that in the background, so I was watching old seasons of Big Bang Theory, rewatching them. But now I just have to settle for listening to music, so carry on till this is done. I tell you what, that is a lovely sight right there. That is about, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 hours worth of work spread over a couple days. And it wasn't non-stop either. I had to keep getting up and going into the other room to check my DVD burner, burning off some backup data, basically. But yeah, ESD bag sealing is over with, so I can actually set up this area for shipping. So I'm trying to set up my assembly line, and I'm not really loving this. I'm not loving that it's sitting on Nintendo's, but that was just a initial try. So, you know, bag sockets, headers, ribbon cables, nuts, bolts, foam, 2-wire, and then the actual boards. But I have this roll-around table, another freebie from Kevin. I'm going to try to set up over there, that way, because I have to walk through there into the front room a lot, so I don't want to be knocking that over. God, that'd be a mess. So the table will take up less space side to side, and I ain't got any to clear that out anyway, so rethink. Oh yeah, way better setup with the table. That's like the beginning of the assembly line. There's all the ancillary stuff, and here's all the main boards, interposers, main boards, boxes, internal packing, cap kits and LED kits, and there on the right's the boxes I'll use for international shipping. Yeah, that's gonna be way easier than before. Like the first 200 that I did, I had like the boxes and stuff were in the living room, and all the cap kits and LEDs were in this other room, and just a lot of back and forth. It sucked. So now it'll just be rolling around from one place to another in the chair, hopefully. But yeah, way nicer setup. I'm going to close this video out here because video of me shipping this stuff may not work out because there'll be a lot of names and addresses, and I don't want to have to blur out each one and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to get this up there to update everybody. This is going to take probably several days, actually, because the first 200 took 3.5 days, and I'm talking non-stop 3.5 days, like 12 plus hours a day. So don't expect it right away. You know, I mean, I don't even know when the first ones are going to go out. It's Thursday the 10th today, so maybe some will get picked up tomorrow. You know, I'm definitely going to go by who ordered first, but I'm also going to put all the kits in a box that are going to a modder, because that's easier, and plus they haven't paid for the shipping yet. So I need to tell them how much it's going to cost to ship a box of however many kits to the modder. So they kind of get a little bit of priority, but not much. You know, like if you were really low on the list and you said ship to modder, then you're going to get your kit to the modder first, but you know, they still have to do all their work too, so whatever. But I'm definitely going to go in order of who ordered first, as far as, you know, ship to yourself or whatever. But anyway, that's the update for now.